Yep. Good evening, everyone. So last session we started discussing about directives in Angular. Right? So last session we discussed how data binding works using MVC approach. Another one, MVVM. Another we started discussing about Angular directives. In that we are learning structural directives. In structural directives, we are learning how to use ngIf. So what is the purpose of ngIf as we discussed yesterday? It is used for adding, removing any element from page, DOM. So we can add element, we can remove element by using ngIf, right? So here we will see various forms of this. Yesterday, basic example I given. Now we will see various forms of if, how to handle it. So ngIf, basic syntax already I given yesterday. So what is the basic syntax for that is, so we have any container, asterisk, ngIf, and it can have a Boolean expression, Boolean value, or we can have a Boolean expression. Boolean expression that returns true or false. That is the basic syntax we learned. Means how we can configure if. Now we have another option is how we can handle alternative. That means, so ngIf with then and else blocks. We will see how to do this. ngIf with then and else block. Actually, you may be learning various programming languages, Java, .NET. They are all structured programming. Am I right? Java, .NET, all these are structured programming. Do you know any, do you have any idea on procedure programming, procedure oriented programming? No? Java, .NET, C++, all these are structure oriented programming. Any idea on procedure oriented programming? Anything? No. These days you may not be learning procedure oriented much, but actually in general structural programming, what happens is, so in structural programming you have an if with a condition and there is a block structure, and you have an else, so else and another block. But in procedure oriented programming, usually we have like this: if, condition, we will have then and the statements. What are the statements? Then we have else and we have the statements. Like this we define. That is procedure oriented approach actually. So that means then block contains the statements. Actually, generally how you say, if block contains statements which executes on true. Else block contains statements which executes on false. But actually in procedure oriented we say if is used to only define condition. If is used to define only condition, then block specifies the statements to execute when condition is true. Else block specifies the statements to execute when condition is false. That is how we generally tell. And this Angular follows the procedure approach in the UI. In the UI, it follows procedure approach, not structural approach. Structural approach in the TS file. In UI, it follows procedure approach. That is the reason you have to use these kind of techniques, if then. Generally, people who worked on procedure programming, they know if you have to return with then. Like we have programming languages like VB, Visual Basic. Earlier, before JavaScript, we used to use another script called VB script, but almost it is gone. Nobody knows now. But earlier, web development used VB script also, JavaScript, VB script. But JavaScript took over, so and VB script gone. No more VB script. People who are into software development from more than 15-20 years, they know VB script. Because in the early web development, we used to use VB script also. But these days, we don't have that. All recent developers never know about that there is VB script also. Right? So we those kind of procedure languages use this technique. That is what we use here. So how to handle the conditions is actually, so ng if defines condition. ng if defines condition, then specifies the block to execute when condition is true, and else specifies the block to execute. Actually not execute here. Here in this case, I will tell you, execute when condition is what? False, right? So Angular ng if, what it will do? It will do two things. Adds a container or element. Adds a container or element using then block, and removes a container or element using which block? Else. That means in Angular, what is the role of then? Then block will add a element or container when condition is true. When condition is false, it removes. So technically, we use by using then and else. But here, one more point here is actually ng if can switch between then and else block. It can switch between then and else block. Based on the Boolean value, it can switch between then block and else block. We will see one proper concept. We will see. How do we define with conditions then and else blocks? How to write? Let's see. First, a basic example I will show you. So I will add one component here, or let's keep the same. This is if demo component is there. I will clean this up. Okay. Now here we will access localhost. It's currently empty. Nothing is there. Okay. Here we are writing a simple condition like this. So here we have ng if. We need to put a Boolean condition. That means we have to define true. After that, that means that is the condition. After that, semicolon, we need to write then. Then we have to define when condition true, which block to add. We have to tell that block. That means then block, which block to add. And we have to use else and which block to add. That means here you have to mention the then block, here you have to mention the else block. But how to design such blocks? How do we design those blocks? This is very important. That means how the syntax works. Actually, the syntax for ng work is it uses ng if, it uses a condition, after that then, and it will use then block id. After that else, it will use else block id. Else block id. That is how we write condition. So then block id, else block id. Now how to design the blocks? How we can create the blocks? Actually, how do we create the blocks? That means two blocks are required, one for then, another for else. Two blocks are required, one for else and another for then. Now, the problem here is if you write any HTML block, HTML means paragraph, div, Angular cannot recognize these HTML blocks and add them dynamically. So what is the key point here is ng if cannot handle HTML containers dynamically using ng if. Cannot handle dynamically, simple. ng if cannot handle HTML container dynamically. HTML container means what? You cannot use div, you cannot use span, you cannot use paragraph, you cannot use any such containers. Then how? If ng if have to handle containers, then what you have to do is you have to use dynamic container provided by Angular. You have to use a dynamic container provided by Angular, and that dynamic container is ng template. It is ng template. This is dynamic container. So ng if cannot work on HTML containers. That means it cannot make decisions and dynamically add or remove HTML containers. So it is mandatory that you have to use Angular containers. Angular provides its own dynamic containers. So many are there. One by one we will see situation wise. And currently you can use this container template. It is a HTML container. It is an Angular container. What is the purpose of this container? It can contain any content inside which you can add into page, which you can remove from page. What is the specialty? This container can respond to then and else. HTML containers cannot respond to then and else. They cannot respond to then and else. So you need this container. So what is the key point here? Then and else can handle only dynamic container. Can handle only dynamic container. Hence, so ng if requires. So ng template. This is important. ng template to keep all the content. We need this ng template to keep all the content. This is very important. Let's try this now. We will see that. First, I will show you a basic level example, then you can go into other good designs, right? Let's see. basic level example is, I will show you here. First, I am adding one div. I am adding this. I am using so the container to display on condition true. Condition true. Just this sentence I am writing. And we have another div. This is container to display on condition false. Right? We have two containers. Now here I am defining a condition. Condition is now ng if we have true. Now two containers are there. How to access them? They need a reference ID. Reference ID. Angular reference ID is defined by using hash. Already yesterday we saw that hash here. So I will use as true block. You can give any ID. And here I will give hash. What is it? False block. One is true block, another false block. Now after condition defined, we will put a semicolon. Then means if condition true, then which block to execute? Which block to execute? True block. Then we have to access the true block here. After that, we need to mention else. Else which block to execute? Which block to execute? False block. We need to define like this. Now see what this then and else error saying. Then says that HTML div element cannot be assigned to a template Boolean type. That means it is saying that HTML container cannot respond to my conditions. Understood? HTML div cannot respond. Any HTML element cannot respond. So that means this ngIf is saying that, ngIf saying what I showed you in definition. That means they can, then and else can handle only dynamic container. Now who showed error? If is not showing error, then and else are showing error, saying that we can't handle HTML. Then what we have to do is, we have to change this to Angular container. Angular container is ng template. ng template is Angular container. And this is what ng template. Now then block is satisfied. Else block is not satisfied. Else block. Okay, for else block, this one, it should be what? ng template. It should be ng template. That is ng template. Now condition satisfied. Now what is the Boolean value here? True. True means which block will come? True block. That means you can see in the output it says container to display on condition true. Condition true. We will change this now. We will set this to false. If I set to false, then it should display false block. Then you see container to display on condition false. That means it is changing out of these two, which one it is changing according to decision. In the last session, we used a simple if. If satisfied, it will display a block. If not satisfied, nothing. Now we have an alternative. When condition true, one value, and not true, another value. We can change according to situation. This is decision with alternative. So for handling ngIf with conditions, this is the approach you need to follow. Right? Here so many basic rules you have to follow. Anything you missed out, it will not work. Many people have one more problem in this. Generally, many people what they do is, that means coding structure also have problem. We have a div. For that we are writing ngIf, and here we are writing condition, Boolean true or false. We are defining, then we are using then block, and we are using else, and we are using else block. Right? We are configuring like this. many times what people do mistake is inside this div, they will write ng template. That means inside that they will write ng template. That is not valid. That means the dynamic templates which should render according to condition, they must be outside condition, not inside. If you miss this basic point, then you will face problems. It will not work. Many people come with this complaint every time when they are practicing. That is the reason I highlighted this. Because many people come and say that, sir, I am using if with templates only, but it is not showing. That means now you properly first examine where your if started, ended. Make sure that your condition templates are not kept inside if. They are kept outside. They are not kept in the block where you are writing. They are not kept in this block. They are kept outside. Right? In this block, it will not work. They have to be kept outside. That is what I have used here. You see, this is the div ended here. That is the div ended here. So this div cannot end inside. This div cannot end inside. It will not work. It will not work. That means this must end here itself. Then only it will work. Right? That means make sure that these templates are outside the condition block. So let me give a note also for that. So note is make sure that the dynamic templates are configured outside condition container. They are configured outside condition container. So make sure that the dynamic templates are configured outside the condition container. So final syntax, how it looks like. The final syntax for this, we have a div, we have ng asterisk ng if, and we say true. So and semicolon, then we have to use one simple option. This is a true block, right? And else we have false block, and close the div here. Below that we need ng template. This template should have an ID. What is the ID? True block. And this is ng template, and this is to display when true. And we need another template. So this is else block. This is to display when false. Then we have ng template. That is how we need to configure. Right? When you are using conditions, this is one concept. Now let's implement this in one real world example and see how we can use it. Means how we can manage this. We will see a simple example. So for practicing some real world examples, what we will do is we will take some real world data also. We will take some real world data and try to practice on the data so that it is easy to understand. What we will do is to practice some examples, we will use some data. So we will use an API, fake store API. We will use this API, http://fakestoreapi.com. These people will provide you some sample data. You can try this data, you can use this data and practice your examples. That means instead of practicing on dummy content, take some real-time content, so that will be easy to understand. So this fake store API is a website. They will provide free data. So they maintain server, they maintain some API methods, and they will provide some free APIs. You can fetch them, use them, and handle it. Now the question is how to access data from API. That means this is fake store API, how to access data from API. So simple point, actually, accessing data from API. So in Angular, there is a separate concept. No need to worry about that as of now. You can just try your JavaScript. JavaScript provides a promise called fetch. It provides a promise called fetch. In JavaScript, there is a promise called fetch. So what it can do is fetch uses an AJAX request for fetching data from any API. It is a general JavaScript promise. So if you have learned JavaScript, I hope you learned fetch API, you learned fetch promises. I hope you know JavaScript promises. In JavaScript, we have promise concept, and in that promise, one of the popular is fetch. What this fetch API can do is fetch promise can fetch data from any API and return. We will use Angular techniques also. Angular internally have some services. By using that, you can fetch the APIs. That is later. But up to that moment, you don't need to worry. You can use simple JavaScript fetch concept, right? In any JavaScript based technology, all JavaScript AJAX calls will work. All JavaScript AJAX methods will work. Generally, JavaScript AJAX method is fetch. Actually, what it will do is syntactically fetch is a promise. It can take the URL. After that, it will use a then uses a callback function. What this callback function will do is this then callback function will return response. It will return response, but response comes in a binary form. That means whatever data you are fetching from this URL, it will be returned in a binary form. Then what we do, we collect and return the response and convert that into JSON. Whatever binary form data comes, we convert that into JSON. After that, it uses another then block. This uses a callback function. And what it will do, this is going to collect the data. It is going to collect the data which is returned in JSON. And you can do manipulation on the data. This data you can use. Whatever data, that means you can handle the data here. So you can handle data here. There is another option. It will have catch. So what this catch will do is it will collect the function. If there is any error, then it will catch that error and it will throw that error. That means you can throw error. That means we can catch and we can report the error if there is any problem in fetching. These are promises actually. We call them JavaScript promise. So in every JavaScript concept, you can generally use this. So JavaScript will teach you how to use fetch and work with APIs and all. So this is a simple JavaScript fetch method. By using this, we can fetch data from any API and use it. Actually, these fake store people will provide some API. For several examples, we will try this. After that, we will see other APIs also, right? We will work with other APIs. Why? Because in real world projects or interviews, when you go, everywhere what they do, they will give one API URL and they will say that here our data is present, use the data and create presentations. So you must be very perfect in handling APIs. So later you will learn other techniques of handling APIs. Currently, in the beginning, we will just use fetch method. Actually, you see this website, Fake Store API. This is Fake Store API. And this fake store API is providing some API methods here. You can see they have some API methods. We have products of one categories. Now when I select categories, you can see it is returning an array JSON. When you select products of one, it is returning one product details. And this is what type? Object. Now we have to fetch this and use. So instead of creating our own data first, we will work on this practice. Later we can create our own data and interact with that. So you can try this API. This is the API URL. This is the API URL, which is giving some sample data. We will try this. We will do one thing now. How to handle this API? You can see they have given the fetch method. You see they have given the fetch method. Because everybody knows that JavaScript based any API is handled by using fetch, right? Fetch have some problems. To make it better, in some places they use jQuery Ajax. To overcome the issues of jQuery Ajax, in Angular we have our own Angular services, which you can use for fetching data from API. You will learn all of them. We will see. So we will see how to use this fetch and handle this data. Let's do one thing. First point is we will try to create a simple presentation, and we will try to handle that presentation. So let's go to the controller. So this is the controller we are having, TS file. Here we are expecting data. Observe what type of data is coming. From the API, we will access one product at a time. Currently, we haven't learned arrays and all manipulating. We will access one product. They have fake store API /products/1. It return one product. They have 20 products. You can try 1, 2, 3, 4, first product, second product, like that, all will come. You see, every product have ID. Its type is number. It have title. Its type is string. It have price. So price is, these are the types of ID, title, what properties it is having. I am pointing them, right? Price, another one, description. Oh, description is very lengthy. Category and image and rating. And rating is there. These are all the details. That means what data is coming? ID, title, price, description, category, image, rating. ID is number, title is string, price is number, description is string, category is string, image is string, rating is again object. In that object again we have two properties, rate and count. Rate is number, count is also number. Okay, this we need to present. So let's create a contract for this. Am I right? We need to create a contract for this. Let's go to contracts. We are already maintaining contracts now. So, and here I will add a new file, that is a fake store product. Fake store product.ts. Fake store product.ts. So we will create export interface. What is it? Fake store product dot this is the fake store product is contract. Okay, now what it have? ID is what type? Number. It have title is string. What else? It is having a description. Okay, description is what type? String. What else? It have price is what type? Number type. Next, it is having image is what type? String. It is having rating is an object. In that again we have a rate is what type? Number. Another one, count. Count is also what type? Number. This is the type. That is the contract. That means we identified what type of data is coming. Right? Okay, we created a contract for this. And now let's create here, import that contract here. So we have to import, what is it? Fake store product contract. Okay. Let's create a new property, public product. It is of what type? Fake store product type. And data is coming from where? Data is coming from API. We don't have any data as of now. So how do we satisfy this? It is showing error. So we will put null. Understood? And we will initialize with what? Null. This point already I told you. We discussed it, na? Union of types. In TypeScript, we discussed that. That is why we spent lot of time in TypeScript, because without that, no Angular. And if anybody missed out TypeScript and directly attending Angular, it's like Christopher Nolan movie. You know Christopher Nolan movie? Don't know? Don't know? Christopher Nolan is very famous Hollywood director. Inception, Matrix, Interstellar, these are his movies. You will clap for every scene. You will whistle for every scene. At the end of movie, you will ask, what is story? Understood? Huh? He is so genius that even space scientists also can't understand his theories. Interstellar movie, if you watch on IMAX screen. So when I was watching on IMAX screen, so everybody was whistling, clapping, and our movie finished. We are walking out. Somebody was asking, what was story? Right? Because it will be great in watching everything, but you can't understand. Right? So without TypeScript, Angular will be like that. Right? It looks good, but you can't handle anything. TypeScript, you need to be very strong to handle Angular. So this all you must able to tell immediately. That means if I say like this, that how to satisfy this? It is showing error. Data is not coming. Data is not there. Data have to come from API. Then how to satisfy? I cannot make it empty. So I cannot directly put as null. It will show error. Why? Because it says that you are saying fake store product, how it will be null? Then it must have union type. What is the union type? Union type is null. That means why null? Not undefined. We can use undefined also, na? Why null, not undefined? What is difference between null and undefined? I told you. Why null? Because if value is coming dynamically, then we have to use null. If value is provided statically, then you have to use undefined. Compile time, undefined. Run time, null. Fetching of data from API we do dynamically. That is the reason we have to always mark it what? Null. We are expecting data dynamically, then always mark it as what? Null. Okay. Now how to get the data? So we will use a simple, so fetch method here. But remember, in a class, what members you can have directly as class? Can you have any function as class member? Can we have any function as class member? No, already we discussed class members. A class member can be property or method or accessor or constructor. Am I right? You gone through all your TypeScript now, right? A class member can be a property or a method or a constructor or an accessor. So can I use fetch directly? Because fetch is a function. Can I use directly? No. So what we have to do? We have to create one method. Can I use function in a method? Yes, we discussed now. Can we use variables in a class? Variables can be in class, but variable cannot be class member. That point I told you, right? That means we have to create one method. What is the method? Load product. That is the method. Okay, it is what type? Void type. Okay, load product is a method. It is what type? Void. Now what this method have to do? It have to fetch the data. Then we will use the fetch function, fetch. And fetch is a JavaScript promise. It is available in every technology that supports JavaScript. We don't need to install anything or anything. Just browser also supports directly fetch method. That means you can directly run this fetch method in any JavaScript technology. Fetch from where? Fetch, you see, it says it is type promise. It is promise, right? So now fetch from where? http://fakestoreapi.com/products/1. That means it is returning first product. One product it is returning. We will try one first. Okay. Dot then, if it is successful, we will use a callback function. We can write a callback function, but I am using shorthand arrow method technique. Arrow method technique means response is the parameter. What it should do? Response.json. I'm using arrow techniques, arrow methods, shortcut techniques. Next dot another then. What this then have to do? Get the data. After getting the data, now this data need to be assigned to this product. Whatever data you collected, you store there. That means what we have to do? This dot what? Product. This dot product is equal to, this dot product is equal to whatever data you collected. That is done. That means we are fetching data from this real world API and we are storing that in product. Now what product contains, you know, this product contains fake store data, all these details. Now we need to present this now. Let's create a presentation here. I will simply put a heading. First we will say product details. Let's keep another data list. Here we have data term. Here we have title. How to print the product title? We will put a binding expression. We have product dot title. That is what we have to do. And you see there is some error. What is it? It is showing error. So it says object is possibly null. Possibly null because value is not coming now. Value will come when? At runtime. Value will come at runtime. Till that moment value is not supplied. Compile time it is verifying. Compile time itself it is verifying and it is showing error. Now headache. Why? Because it is not verifying runtime. Actually it should verify runtime. It is verifying compile time. Why? Because we are using a promise method. You see, we are using a promise method. Observe carefully. This fetch promise is returning undefined. Understood? It is returning undefined. It is not null. It will return null if your method type is returning null. That means later we will use Angular services, jQuery, Ajax methods. They will return null. If they return null, what will happen? You can handle it. This is the problem from Angular 14 only. Angular up to Angular 13, there is no problem because up to Angular 13, error handling at compile time is not there. Only at runtime it is there. But in Angular 14, they added this. In Angular 14, they added compile time error handling. That is a new feature. That is very good. Then we have problem. We have to change the strategy now. That means this is not resolved runtime. This is resolved compile time. Then what is the union type we have to use? We have to use what? Undefined. Then this will be what type? Undefined. Default, which type it is mentioned? Undefined. That means now in the compile time, you see here, so in the compile time, this product is having title. So this title still have a problem. You see possibly undefined errors. Why error? These all problems were not there earlier versions of Angular. This is because of latest error handling. This is because of latest error handling. Now, what is the problem you see here? What you assigned into this undefined as a value, but what it is expecting an object, na? It is expecting an object. So I defined undefined and I am not referring anything into it, not initializing anything. I'm not initializing anything. And here you can see same, I'm using title. Now you see it is not expecting title. Why? Because this product is what type? Observe here. What is the product type? So we defined the product type. So what is this product? Product is what type? Fake store. It is undefined. So undefined means actually it needs a value undefined. If it is null means it needs a value null. There is no value null. There is no undefined. That means actually this is no problem if that is any type. You mentioned what type? Fake store type, na? If you mention fake store type, then you defined null, or what you do is you have to initialize with a value. What is the value to initialize? Title. Title is string empty. What is the next one? ID. ID is what? Number. What is the next one? Order we will give. ID. ID is what? Number. Another one? Title is a string. Another one? So description. Description is what type? String type. Another one? So we have image. Image is what type? String type. Another? Price. Price is what type? Number type. Another? Rating. Rating is what type? Object. Object have a rate. Rate is number. Another one? Count. Count is also number. These are all the initializations. These are all the initializations. That means these initializations are configured here. We are accessing product. Now you see title. It is fine. So much change happened in Angular. What I showed you, null, undefined, initialize, null, undefined, up to Angular 13. Up to Angular 13. From Angular 14, you have to initialize those types, descriptions, because Angular 14 is verifying everything compile time itself. So it will save runtime issues. It will save the runtime. It will be more better and faster for a developer, because earlier developer used to identify the problems at the runtime. That is not good idea. That is the reason they improved this and they made this happen. And you see here, so this is the title. So and title need to be displayed there. And you observe here, what is the title? Errors will be there here. Let's check the concept here. When you are working with this console, you can see this is the data. So this is, there is no error here. The title have to display the content. What title to be displayed? We need to fetch and show it here. So how do we get the title? Title is empty, na? Title is empty. Remember, this title is empty. We written in a load product. This method should execute, na? Understood? That means you written this functionality in a method. This method should execute, then only data will come. Right? How to execute this method? So when component is initialized, this is on init. On init means when component is initialized. Later we are going to learn this cycle, component life cycle. Don't worry. So later we will discuss what is on init and all. Every component have a initialization phase. When component is initialized, we will call this function. call this method. How to call the method? On init, we have to call this dot. What is the method? Load product. That means when component is initialized, this method will execute. What that method will do? It will fetch the data and it will assign to this location. Understood? It will assign to that location. That means now you can see that here the data is coming. This all you have to follow. Earlier only data type related issues are there. Earlier we just need to define null and we can simply handle null. But now because of Angular 14's good error handling at compile time, you need to take care about lot of declarations, initializations of values during compile time itself. Actually earlier they are resolved at runtime. Now they are resolved at compile time. You can display other details now. This is only title. Other details we will display here. Now what we have to do, another one, data term. This is price, data definition. Data definition. Here we have product dot price. So it will get the price. Another data term. So this is preview. Preview is a photo. Now how do we display a photo? We have to use, I will keep a data definition. I will use an image. To image we need to attach a photo. Then we have to use a property. Property means square brace. Na? What is the property? SRC. In SRC we have to put, what is it? Product dot image. It will get the product image. Then width is some 100. Height is 100. This is the data. Now we have another option, another data term. Suppose rating is there. I want to display rating. So many details are there. We are displaying few. Okay. In rating, actually we will put a span. So span have a class BI. BI, this is star fill and the text success. And beside it, we will put a binding expression, product dot rating dot rate. Am I right? That is the rate. After that, we will put here another binding expression, product dot rating dot, what is it? Count. This is what we need to display. And you can see all the data will come here. This is the product details. That means we have a product details. We are fetching data from that API. They have ready-made data available. We are just using the data. Now, on this we will apply. If else, then all these type of practice we will do on this data. First, you need to understand how we can fetch any data. And for that, you don't need any Angular things. You just need a JavaScript fetch method. By using that, you can fetch data from any API and you can try that. Now you can see if you are already working on Java, .NET like technologies and you have your API methods, you can try that. You can access data and you can display, right? Initially, you just try this first one. Now here you can do one more technique here. So if many products are there, suppose you want to watch all the products, you can do one more technique here. What is it is actually simple trick is load product and into this we will pass ID as a number parameter and I will use that ID here. So I will use a backtick now because backtick uses embedded expression. Here we will pass ID. Understood? ID. That means whenever you call load product, you need to pass an ID into it. Suppose I will pass 2 second, then the second product detail will come here. Like that, they have 20 products. We can get all the 20 products information. You can do one simple trick here. We will put next and previous buttons. We will put next and previous buttons and to fetch all the details and see one by one, right? What we can do, just increment by up to 20, decrement, right? What we will do, one simple logic we will do. By default, we will load 1. That means the first product data will come. After this, what we will do here below this, we will add, so two buttons. This is button class BTN and BTN some primary. And here we have a span. So this span is a class BI. So BI chevron left. Chevron left. That means it will be this button. Right. And I will use another button here and chevron right. Right. So this is right button here. This is left and right button here. And here margin E. Margin E is 2 so that some gap will be kept. Okay. Now when I click on this second, it should load the second product. It should load the second product, and this should load the previous, if there is previous, right? We have to write conditions and all. Simple we will give here. So we have two functions to write, two methods to write. One more we need ID to increment. So we will use another property. Public count is a property which is what type? Number type. We will initialize with 1. Okay. Count is a number type initialized with 1. Okay. What should happen now? We will write a method. This is next click. Okay. Next click is a method. On next click, what should happen? It is a void method, right? On next click, what should happen? So this dot count plus plus, it should increment by 1. After that, this dot load product into that pass the count, this dot count value. Understood? That means count value will be increased by 1 and it will load the next product, second product. Okay. So this is simple. Similarly, we have public. What is it? Previous click. On previous click, void. What we will do on previous click, this dot, what is it? Count minus minus. This dot what? Load product, this dot count. Into that we will pass the count. Now on this button click, we have to call. That means let's go to the UI. On this button click, this is next button, am I right? I will use. So this is actually we have an habit of writing like this as Arial labels. So this is next. So we have this one have an habit of, this is Arial label. So this is label, this is previous. This is for developers identification. We use these labels for identifying that this is previous, this is next. Otherwise, how do we know which symbol where it is there? These are generally used in real world front-end development everywhere. These labels are important. You will see in every website this will be there. Now what we will do on this click, what should happen on click? Click means, event means parenthesis. Which one? We have to call the function. What is the function name? Previous click, that is the method. On this button click, which method? So on this, which one? Next click should work. Okay, that is what it have to do. Now you can see when I click on this button, the next product will come. I click on the next, that means the next product will come. Remember, you are working with the API. Keep patience. Sometimes you have to get data from API. Sometimes API may disconnect. API may not work. You need to connect to internet continuously. It will take some time to load. You have to keep patience in that. You cannot simply come with a complaint, right? Not working. Right? Because you are working with API, once verify. So how do you verify? Go to inspect. Check the console once, check this console once. If there is a message like connection refused, connection lost, that means API is not connected. Your code have no problem. Only API is not responding, right? Make sure that it is working, right? Sometimes it will take time. Okay. I click on next, it will get the next record. These are next records. Every record we have these details. previous. This is previous record. So this is previous and this is next. We can handle this. Now, what is the point is, I want only two views here. Two views like either show details or show preview. Don't show all at a time. Understood? That means don't show all details. That is complicated. Right? So show details, show preview. We will put buttons, toggle buttons, or we can put checkboxes. Now we will put decision making here. That means don't show all details. Now divide this into two categories. One, product details, another product preview. Divide into two details. One is product details, another product preview. In product details, title, price, and rating will be there. Rating will be there. In product preview, only photo will be there. Okay, we will do one thing now. Divide that. Divisions. We will divide that. How do we divide this area? Now go here. So this is the data list we are having. Now in this data list, so this data definition, rating, up to rating, we will keep all at one place. Okay. That means preview is at a separate place. Okay. Rest of details are one place. Now see what I am doing. I am removing up to here, and I will keep in ng template. Understood? I will keep in ng template, and for this template, I will give an ID as details block. Okay. That is details block. Okay. Now go to this preview area. In this preview area, we will create another template. What is it? ng template. And this one, I will give another ID as preview block. Preview block. Understood? We have two blocks now. One is preview block, another one preview block, another details block. Now here I will keep a condition here. Means here I will design a simple toggler. I will create a simple toggler. Input type is equal to checkbox. Checkbox. Here we will say, so preview and details. Like this I am giving. And for this, I will give class form switch. And for this, I will give class as form check input. These are Bootstrap related options. Now it keeps like this, preview and details. We have a simple switch, preview and details. Now what should happen is, by default, preview or details, anyone should display. That means we will take the value coming from this. Take the value coming from this. I will do one thing to make it more simple, good interface. I will do like this. This preview button, this preview word, I will use before this checkbox. Oh, so preview. Okay. Now you can see this is there. Preview and this is checkbox. Where is this check input is there, right? Form switch means it is not using anything. Label. It is overriding. Here also we will put a label. Oh, it is not taking the space. We'll do one thing. We'll keep an input group because form switch is preview, and here we will keep this below this, right? Details. So preview and details. We have this option. We can put in an input group and do that. Now what should happen? By default it will be first preview. After that it can be details. Suppose I want that approach now. Let's see how to do this. How to collect here? We will keep another condition, div. You know how to write this. We have to collect the value coming from checkbox. How to collect value from checkbox? We will use MVVM approach. That means it should have ng model name. Name is toggle. Okay, toggle. And what is it? So this is toggle I will give. Then hash. So hash what? Toggle is equal to ng model. Okay, now we will get that here. We are writing hash ng if. Ng if. What is the condition now? Condition is toggle dot value. It will return true or false, na? It will return true or false. Then we have to use then. Then if it is true, that means which block should come? We have to display details block. Understood? Else which block should come? We will display preview block. Right? This is the condition we are using. That means now what happens here? By default it shows preview. I will turn on details, then it will get details. Right? I switch this one, then it will get preview, this will get details. Right? We are switching that and displaying only what we need. This we are using with if and then. If and then. Now I click on this one, preview. This is the second one, second record. Details of that record. That is men's casual premium slim fit. I will go here, preview. I will click one, next one. And click on next one. Click on next one. I want details of this. Then expand details. It is some woman's, some silver bracelet. That means it will get the preview and the details. That means you can toggle and display only what you want and show. That is a simple approach of handling if. How we can use if. That means add one block, remove another block. When one block is added, another one is removed. When you look at the design, actually, when you look at what happens is, all this is not added into page. All this is not added into page. Observe carefully now. You go to preview. So you go to inspect. When you inspect, you can see here in the elements, only the data list contains only details. Here preview is there. Understood? Only preview related definition is there. Others are not there. That means other content not there. It is removed. When you turn on, automatically other details, see so many details added. So turn off and you turn off and you see turn on, you see 5-6 details added to page. So that is adding and removing content so that it improves the performance. That is what the major concept of working with the conditions means, how we can manage that. This is a simple, see, I kept a checkbox. You can keep a button. You can keep a drop down. From drop down, you can send the values. Depending on that, we can manage. Those all examples we will see. Currently, we learned only one concept. How do we write a if condition with else, another one, then. This is a simple approach of working with data. We are using fetch and along with our if condition. I am showing one simple example on if condition here. Understood? Now here the doubt is, can we use multiple then blocks? Can we use multiple then blocks? Like if condition 1 true, one block. Condition 2 true, another block. Condition like else if. Like else if, can we write multiple then blocks? No, not possible. There can be only one else. There can be only one then. There can be only one else. There can be only one then. Then how to handle multiple then blocks? How to handle multiple then blocks means, you see websites, shopping websites, they don't show all details at one time. they will say that this is basic details. Second, they will say that preview. Third, they will say that description. Fourth, they will say that rating. Everything separate. That means we can hide all of them and we can have multiple conditions also. Now this is challenging one, like multiple then blocks are not supported. Multiple then blocks are not supported. Then how to handle multiple conditions? So for that we need to use a technique called, in Angular it is a very popular one, we call that as content projection. We need to learn this concept, content projection. At experience level, this is very, very important concept. Content projection, how content projection works, what is content projection? It's a very big concept and very important. So what is the concept of content projection? We will discuss detail. So, but question here is, can we define multiple then blocks? Not possible. There can be only one then block. There can be only one else. Then how to handle multiple conditions? That we will see with a concept called content projection. That we will see in next session. Right? In the next session, we will discuss about how to handle and work with content projection. Content projection. So you are practicing all this, right? There are no issues. So if there are issues, then what I will do is tomorrow, first half an hour, I will discuss about a topic. Then rest of the time we will discuss doubts, right? We will clarify the doubts for the people online, offline, everything. Tomorrow session, first half an hour, I will just take a basic general topic. Then after that, we will have a doubt session. Every Saturday we will maintain that. Right? Every Saturday we will have a doubt session separately, so that if any doubts are there, we can clarify in that. Okay? Then tomorrow we'll continue. Okay? Right.